you're going to start. You're going to all present on the 5th. So that's the last full class meeting. And so then and in that week period, whatever people owe me, nobody really owes me anything from what I can see. So maybe some decision questions for one reason or another. And I don't get crazy about those until the very last minute. So when I count up who has done what. But for the most part, as far as my bookkeeping tells me, most of you are in pretty good shape on that. Certainly in very good shape. I was just saying, if most of you before the class began, you're in very good shape as far as the quality of the responses. They're um, knocking me over. They're really very, very wonderful responses. I wish, see now what I did was I used the syllabus that was given me, which is what I was told to do. Typically, I use my own, I come up with my own syllabi, but I got told this was the syllabus. And so there's only three assignments, and as I told you more than once, in the syllabus that was given to me. One was the decision questions, one was the strategic plan, and one was something called SMART goals. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. So I'm going to put up a SMART goal assignment, which is going to be as Mickey Mouse as possible, because in my mind, all of you know how to write SMART goals. I didn't, but I found a way to weave it in with the strategic plan. But to come back to the decision questions, and one or two, I think Yulia asked this question way back in the beginning. And it was a very legitimate question. The point value that was assigned not by Richard, okay, not by Dr. B. The point value was, I think, just 2 points. And so it's pretty hard to say to somebody, well, you get a two and you get a one, or you get a zero. I can't, I have trouble with that in terms of the quality of decision questions, responses, except that everyone really has responded very well. Some have more things to say than others at certain times. And I can't, bottom line is the most I can give you is two. So I've been giving twos to everybody, unless somebody gives me something that I don't think is very good. And then I just quietly tell that person what to do about that. I don't put it up online for everyone else to read, in case you're wondering about those kinds of things. So what can I tell you as such? So I'm talking too much. And let's get started. And I'll give you folks a chance to ask questions. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of questions. So I'm just going to bounce around for a second. One thing I want to show you, if I can find it. No, I can't find it naturally. I thought I had it up here. Give me a second. Oh, I got it. I'm going to stop the share and go back. There's too many screens open here for me. Now, how do I stop the shares? Here it is. Okay, I got it. All right. This is just very quick. I was telling some of you, so many of you have been meeting with me online to get extra help on the strategic plan. And then it occurred to me that I should probably and I got permission to do this from Dr. Smith, that I should probably tell you, if you're interested, I'm shouting for emphasis. Nobody has to sign up for this. Not know how, not no way. Bad grammar. I just wanted you to know that if, especially for those of you who live in Eastern Suffolk BOCES, which isn't too many of you. However, if you're from the city, as a lot of you seem to be, or from someplace, Nassau BOCES or Western BOCES, you can find ways to sign up for these kinds of things as well. We're doing a workshop. It's well after the semester is finished. We figured out that the semester, Melissa said the semester ends on the 12th of December, which is about 5 weeks from now, I guess. And this is on February 4th. And what it is the book I keep saying that I wanted to assign to you, but I didn't because I didn't want to make you buy it. At any rate, it's called Co-Creating the Future. It's an all-day workshop. I'm pretty sure you get a free book with it too. So if you were to sign up for this, you get a free book and you get 6 hours of me in person for once if you can somehow get, or maybe they'll do some online things for those of you like from the Bronx, Janine. But in the end, it's going to be a pretty good workshop, and it's strictly devoted to people who are really interested in understanding this futuring process in connection with strategic planning and change. So it's going to be a good workshop. It isn't free. So that's what you do is you go, you take this handout, print it out, or go online with it, and show it to whoever pays for conferences for people for PD, and then tell them to pay for it. And if they say yes, then I hope that you sign up, and then maybe I'll be able to meet some of you in February. It's not obviously it's not required, not at all, but I think it's going to be a pretty good workshop. But I will tell you, and then this is me being as honest as I know how to be. Uh, if I had to pay for it, I wouldn't go. Especially you folks, because you folks uh, have sat through me in a certain sense. So you know a lot of these things better than most of the people who will be in that workshop class that day. So don't pay for it out of your own pocket. I would not do that. I don't even know what it costs. I think I'm not even going to tell you what it costs, but it's more money than I would pay for any workshop. So enough said about that. I just wanted you to know about that so that you could, have the you could perhaps sign up for that. If you want me to send you the actual flyer, feel free to ask for it, and I'll be happy to send you the flyer, but only if you're not paying for it. Do not come if you have to pay for it. But I hope I meet some of you. Okay, now we will go to my. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. I'm having trouble with just about everything today. Stay with me. I'll get my mojo running and then we'll be good. I use my computer with the smallest screen, so everything is jumping on top of everything else here. I had it up a minute ago. Oh, okay, I think that's it. All right. Okay, we got it. You have this in Canvas. Uh, or maybe you don't, because I didn't think it was necessary to just put up just a few lines like this. This is my plan in air quotes. I don't have any problem whatsoever being blown this way and that way. And my plan is this. I'll tell you what my plan is for the rest of the workshop today, but it's not necessarily where we'll finish because you're going to steer this plan tonight. And either you're going to tell me what you want, or I'm going to be taking your pulse and saying, well, they need a little bit more Bernardo this way than that way. And then I'll stop doing what I plan to do and go straight to this. So as far as housekeeping is concerned, I put down the 8th of November, which is tomorrow, just to tell you, and I didn't know about this till a couple of days ago, that tomorrow is the last day to withdraw. So if you decide to pull, I'm not sure if you get full payment back by this time of the semester, but it's the cutoff for any kind of withdrawal. So if you uh, need to withdraw, want to withdraw, hate this thing, I want to just move on, tomorrow is the last day. So I wanted you to know that. I wanted you to remind you that the fifth is our last synchronous class, and that in that class you're going to be presenting your PowerPoints to the group as well as your strategic plan template. I'll come back to that. Appointments have been coming in. I told several of you, whoever has met with me, that I was kind of flabbergasted, and I still am a little bit, that I kept saying, who needs help, and nobody was really coming up asking for the help. And I said, wow, that means one of two things. One is that I am the best professor in America, and you don't need any help because I've shown you what to do, and you're just marching along. And I didn't think that was probably the case. And the other thing was that maybe they're not really seeing that the calendar accelerates as you get closer to things being due. And that was one of and that this particular strategic plan assignment, in which I have much invested in terms of my own soul and passions and interests and expertise, um, is more complex than it looks like. Yes, you fill in boxes and then you put some PowerPoint slides together, but you have to really demonstrate that you've got your arms around the elephant that is planning and that is futuring. And that's more complicated than that. And what I've found is, I'll speak to it now, with all the folks I've been speaking to, is that, and I said this in another video I taped for you folks, but starting tomorrow, the 8th, is that I've found that in a certain sense, I've taught this task many times, as well as run it with different schools and districts, and I've never taught it or processed it the same way. I kind of went with the flow as how I read the group, and so I think I kind of put you into a box pretty clearly, pretty early on, which presumed that you understood what I was driving at in terms of those first two columns. The first column being the goal, purpose, and the second column being the strategies. And I have a feeling that um, I need to re-explain that. And so I'm going to re-explain that in a few minutes more carefully. But what I wanted to say before I show it is that it seems to me that it will work better for you were you to get into that second column. If you remember the template that I showed you, I said you needed to use, the first thing everyone had to do was identify what information gathering strategies you were going to do. How can you solve a problem, or how can you create a change that you're interested in creating if you don't know everything there is to know, or as much as you can that you need to know to make it right? And so I call that information gathering. I said that you needed to do some required things. Well, there's two distinctions here. I mean, I gave you a list. I put it into that first box under strategies in the template. By the way, I'm recording this. If you need to go back and see this, I'll post this recording tomorrow, late tomorrow afternoon. Uh, and so what I found is that people thought they had to do the information gathering, the focus groups and the surveys and so forth. Not true. You don't have to do these things. You haven't got enough time. If I had you in a full year class, maybe we could figure that something out that way, but you don't have the time to do it that way. There's a however to that, or a yes, but from me to you. I did say to you that you probably should do at least one of those strategies on your own, like the SWOT and like the 5 why. Now, for those of you whom I've spoken to, and Janine, I don't remember, I think, did you and I talk? I think so.
I emailed you my strategy plan
Okay, so
to
you and
look
I
at.
haven't actually spoken. I gave you some input, I hope, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to use you for a second. I don't remember what the task is that you're looking at. What are you looking at?
Providing equitable access to curriculum for alternate and standardized students,
Standardized? What does that mean?
like standardized testing students and alternate assessment students.
Oh, okay. I misunderstood you for a second. All right, now that's written pretty well. Uh, I want you to say it again more slowly so everyone can hear the goal.
I'm just gonna I'm just gonna pull my plan up real quick so I can make sure I say this properly. There's a rubric. Ensure equitable access to literacy instruction by reducing the achievement gap between standardized and alternate assessment students. on literacy screeners.
Now you can't see my face that small, that much because the screen is small, but this T is running down my cheek because that is damn good. It's a little wordy, but you've got the premise down well. Now, that's the goal. That's up in that top left corner box. I'm shouting at Laura, at Janine, but not at the whole class. That second row, okay, second column, excuse me. The second column is a strategy column. And we had that list of, in one box, I stuck all the different information gathering strategies that you might consider if you were actually doing this plan. And as I said a few minutes ago, two of them were SWOT analysis and or a root cause, a 5 why approach. So I don't know if you did that, Janine. I want you to say yes, but you don't have to say yes if you didn't. Did you try to do one of those strategies on your own?
No,
And even though with that you got the goal, all right, that's great. That's not a problem. Okay, you're not getting a zero for saying no. All right, but my advice to all of you, besides Janine, who may be the valedictorian in the class as we speak right now, all right, it would be if you're not sure what that goal is, if it's a little fuzzy to you, or if it's too broad, as several of the goals were that folks suggested to me, then you should not have to, you should do either a root cause analysis, 5 why, or you should do a SWOT or both. So now let's pick on somebody else. Melissa, let me pick on you because you're on the bottom of my screen, if you don't mind. Jeanine, what's the issue that you're looking at? Melissa, I'm sorry. Melissa, what's the issue that you're looking at, please?
I wanted to focus on increasing the regions for global studies.
What does that mean? Increasing region, raising region scores?
Right, yes.
Okay.
I think I should focus on a subgroup though.
I think you're right. Okay.
I'm thinking of choosing ENL students. I know in my school, we have a huge increase in our ENL population.
Okay, so let's talk. I'm going to guess that you didn't do a root cause analysis.
No, I did not. I'm being
Let's
honest.
do. No, of course. No, again, I didn't. It wasn't a requirement. But you really should be doing it. And I'm not talking just you, Melissa. I'm talking to the whole class. So let's do one. Let's model with Melissa. All right.
With a
So
small,
why is it why are you interested? Now, this 5 why is I ask a question, 5 why question 5 times, which is not as easy as it looks, and which you can do with by yourself or with a group of people in a faculty room if they don't hit you over the head with their shoes. But if you did it on your own, at least you would be able to drill down to what some of the root causes are that you're trying to solve. So let's start from the top. So Melissa, why are you interested in closing the gap of achievement in global studies with E&L babies?
honestly,
Yeah, no, honestly, you know why. Why are you interested in that?
they performed the lowest on the last region score.
That's okay. We'll work with that. They perform. Why did they score the lowest?
It could be a lack of, it could be a language barrier.
Right. So why would a language barrier be a reason why E&L students would have trouble with the global?
Well, if the teacher's teaching in English, and even if the materials are translated, the student still has limited knowledge of the subject area, or they still don't understand the teacher while the teacher is teaching.
All right, now I'm gonna steer a little bit one way, and it might not even be fair, but here it comes. Why is the instructional level inadequate?
There's no targeted interventions.
Oh my heaven, is that true? Really? I'm serious.
Well, it could be. I mean,
Okay,
is there certain interventions to
of course
help
there are. Why aren't there any targeted interventions?
the teachers don't really know what type of targeted interventions to incorporate in their classroom?
Okay, now you have a goal. What's the goal?
To maybe have PD
All
or
right, now
have.
I'm going to do to you what I did with Janine on an email, okay? And that is
Okay.
I'm going to help you on. You're in good shape now because
Okay.
here's your goal. I'm going to tell you what your goal is, and it could be other goals too, or you could steer this in a couple of other places. But which essentially what here's the goal. Uh, your purpose, your goal is to narrow the gap of Regents, narrow the gap in your Regents scores between general education and ESL students by identifying strategies to enable them to learn more efficiently. Isn't that great? Should I send
Yeah.
you a bill?
Honestly, I'm sure if I wasn't put on the spot, if I had time to think about it, I could.
You absolutely could have. I'm shouting for emphasis. I get excited about these. I know you're kidding me. 7 o'clock on at night, this man is like jumping up and down, getting excited. I get excited, but you've got your arms around it, and and then you would be able to do it because you went through that process to scale down lower and then flip it back up to what the goal would be suggested by what the root causes seem to be. Although there's many root cause. I thought you were going to say, and it would have been just as legitimate, and I'm being bad. I thought you were going to say the instruction for E&L students in global regions is inadequate because the teachers aren't interested in meeting those kids' needs.
Oh, no. Well, maybe I don't think like that.
Okay,
I mean, I could have hold on a second. Guys, stop. Sorry.
tell
I
them I
could
said
have
this time.
a
Yeah.
3-year time frame of increasing the passing rate of or closing the gap between Gen Ed and E&L students in the global history and geography regions exam by 10% through targeted interventions, collaborative teacher support, and student-centered instructional strategies.
Okay, look at me. Can you see what I'm doing?
Sounds good?
I see what I'm doing. You and Janine made
Yeah.
me maybe cry.
Okay.
All right. That's how it's supposed to look. Then
Okay.
you come down and I'll continue modeling with you. Then you come down and say, okay, what's a strategy to do that?
Well, there could be one could be a strategy. There could be scaffolding. Is that the type of strategy you're looking for?
I'm looking for anything that you think will be
After school sessions. Um,
that's two. So that's good. Now you're coming up with 4 or 5 strategies. Certainly it won't be exhaustive, but you're coming up with 4 or 5 strategies to meet that goal.
and I have to find out if it's gonna, well, it is measurable.
They are smart, the way you wrote them, which comes to that point about smart things, which I
There
have.
have to be, I mean, in measurable, I'd have to do there would be in reality a lot of tracking.
Okay, which is a
Uh,
pain in the neck and very threatening to teachers. But how else would you do it?
well, you have to, I mean, and you
Yeah,
also want kids at the same time to have equitable access to education and put them on the right path to graduation.
exactly. I'm just going to give you a quick war story, if you don't mind. I used to run the social studies departments all over the world, and my boss at the time was really twisted because the global regions is the hardest regions in all the regions. It's harder than chemistry. It's harder than all of them because the scope of history goes back to Fred Flintstone, comes all the way up to yesterday, and
They
that's a
changed,
lot of.
it's only for
Yeah,
10.
I know they changed it, but there's still the whole idea is connected with each other. So at any rate, we had one year where the kids, um, I'm making up a number. I want to say it was 300 kids that took the exam, and 60% of the kids flunked. And my boss, who was then the assistant superintendent, was out of his mind, out of his mind. And he said, "Well, you go find out what that's about." And there was several reasons why. Uh, but I began to play around with looking at the data, and I found that of the 60% of the kids who failed, 60% of the kids who failed, no, it's more than that. It's like 75 or 80% of the kids who failed were females. The girls were failing the global regions. Now, those of you who know anything about remember your global regions courses when you were in high school, it's really the history of wars. There's this war, there's that war, the 100-year war, the 30-year war, and uh, and the girls weren't getting much of what's called social history, which is supposed to be part of the curriculum, but is often overlooked. We went a little further, and I looked a little further, and this is reverse sexism talking here. If I looked at, and I had just taken over the department, so I didn't know everything I needed to know. Every one of the global teachers was a male. So you know what I did next is, as a strategy, among other things, we did a lot of PD, but what I did as a strategy was I hired two female global history teachers who were crackerjack. I mean, they were good. And they went in, and I moved some teachers from out and in, and next thing we know, we were back up to 80% and better as time went on. I mean, there was other strategies too. But those are the kind of things that don't necessarily come up and smack you in the face until you take a closer look at what the data say. Now, if I had time, I would take each of you and do the same thing I just did with Janine and with Melissa, but I don't have the time to do that because I really am rolling this back to make the point that um, sometimes you can't figure out. It looks like Janine and Melissa kind of figured it out, but I just squeezed them, each of them, a little harder because we just did 5 whys to get down to the brass tacks about other root causes or more, rather than just make some assumptions that might be accurate, but may not necessarily be at the core of why the change is needed. Okay. So to come back to what I'm trying to drive at here with this little agenda, which I realize is not the one I meant to show you. This is a rough draft of one I was about to that I had fixed this morning, and I brought the wrong one up. Is that when I've met with anybody on an appointment, these are the things I'm able to do to help people get their branch twisted in the right direction. So when the tree begins to grow, it doesn't go off and fall apart. The mixed metaphors. Okay. So that's why the appointments are important. I'm perfectly willing to meet with anybody who's already met with me. I'm perfectly willing to meet with the people who haven't sent me anything to respond to. Like Janine didn't talk to me, but Janine sent me material. Perfectly willing to do that. And I don't see how you could. Well, we're going to work on a little bit in the class tonight, so you may be able to help each other. And I can jump in and out in the breakout rooms, but it wouldn't be this. It probably wouldn't be sufficient to take this through. So yes, I need appointments. You need appointments, and yes, you need to see how that sequence works. And and the other thing I'm coming to, just to jump ahead of myself, is to help you understand that fifth column. I'm sorry, it's not the fifth column. I think it's the seventh. That last column way off on the right of the template. And that last column in the template said, what are the obstructions? What are the probable futures? What are the yes buts? Things that could go wrong, things that you can probably expect to happen. If I have time, I'm going to show you something that's going to make your hair hurt, but will help you walk through some of these materials that much more. Now, I'm talking too much. I'm leaving room now for any kind of question about the December 5th project, anything at all. Just don't hurt my feelings with saying, how come you don't do all the DQs more promptly? Because I feel guilty about that already. I'm going to count to 6 in my head. That's teacher wait time. I'm going to wait to see if anyone has. I can think of one person who always has questions. So I'm sort of counting on that person to ask a question if nobody else has a question.
I actually had one. This is Tim.
You aren't the person, but it's okay.
I,
Good.
I- I'm just really confused as to like what it is that we're actually like submitting to you. Like, are we like submitting a paper? Are we submitting a PowerPoint slideshow?
Yeah, I explained that already. I'll be happy to explain it again. Two things. Handing in the template that you've got in your videos and in modules already to work from. The template's going to be completed. So, as I've demonstrated it to you a couple of times, and I'll be happy to do it again. Or maybe it's better that you make a meeting date with me, Tim.
Okay.
You're going to do the template, and then you're going to do a 6 or 7 slide PowerPoint where you're going to narrate that back to the group on the 5th, explaining what those boxes mean. One of the bad things about the boxes, even though on a computer you can always make the boxes bigger, one of the bad things about the boxes is we're so restrictive. And so a verbal explanation from you about why you're doing why you decided what you decided will make life will flesh out what you were thinking. So you know there is not a paper, but that's the ultimate question.
Right.
It's the template and it's the PowerPoint. And if you want to make a date with me, I'll be happy to talk to you some
So
more.
essentially, we're breaking down the 7 boxes into 7 slides.
I don't mean to suggest that, but basically, yes.
I mean, in our own way, but
Yeah.
essentially that's the information that you
Yeah.
want on there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that helps. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay. But feel free to make a date. All right. So I'll wait again. I'm going to count to 6 in my head because that's teacher wait time. And if there are any more questions about anything,
I have a question about December 5th and the 12th. We have two Zoom meetings, the 5th and the 12th.
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
So I see for housekeeping for 12/5, you're saying that's when we're going to be doing the presentation, and then
Yes.
it looks like 12/12 we also have
No.
a Zoom meeting, or no?
No Zoom meeting. That's just the end of the semester.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
my question as well, because in the syllabus it said 12/12 for the Zoom meeting. So we're gonna have it on the set.
Well, when do you want to have it? You want to have it on the 5th? You want
The
to
assignment is due on the 4th according to your syllabus, but the class is the next week.
No, I missed that. What's wrong with me? Don't answer that.
I think that's
Yeah,
what
no.
it says.
No, I'm looking at the syllabus right now. It has the 4 dates. The last date is 12/12 for us to
Yeah,
meet.
as the meeting date, right?
Right.
But I feel like in the modules it says 12/5 is the due date for the assignment.
Okay, here we
Right.
go. Good,
I think
good,
that's
thank
why
you.
we're confused.
That's why I'm confused too, but here's how we'll look at it. Kind of goes back to what somebody said earlier on. You're going to present on the 12th. My bad. That's the last day of class, the semester. You'll present on the 12th. So it is due, DUE, on the 12th. Let me say that here so you see it. Okay?
Yes, that makes sense.
Now, from the 5th on, you can send it in to me for feedback.
I have a question, Dr. Bernardo.
Oh, excuse me, hang on a second.
Okay,
Does that make sense? In other words, you can send it to me anytime, but I'll be looking for drafts. And it won't be like you get a 0 if you don't turn it in on the 5th for me to look at it. But I'll be start looking at with more energy by giving you feedback from the 5th on. So if I see something that's really out of line and you need some help with, I'll get on the phone or I'll email you and say, hey, do you need, let me help you with this because you're off target. Okay? Melissa, you have a question?
Yes. So the strategies I'm looking at the template, would it refer to strategies in the classroom, or
Anything you think is necessary. Remember, now you're thinking as district leaders.
and what about formative and summative assessments? That would be the formative, whatever it takes. You talking about what takes place in the classroom?
It could be that. It's more likely than not, yes, but it could be a group assignment, a group, a whole group.
Okay.
Say again?
I just wanted to make sure if that's correct. And then the probable futures would be, as you said, the obstructions, like one could be test anxiety. Would that be one, or
We're going to do more of that in a few minutes, Melissa.
okay, I'm sorry.
Okay?
Okay.
No, that's fine. Don't apologize. Nothing is really wrong. That would be what I would call, when we took our future and we said there were 3 Ps, was possible, probable, and preferable. Most everything is possible. Fewer things are probable, and only a couple of things are preferable. Everybody voted a couple of days ago and you voted for the candidate whom you thought would deliver your preferable future. That's how the futuring process works under ordinary circumstances. But what you did was you considered what you thought were probable futures because if you voted for person X, you thought this might happen over the next 4 years versus what the other candidate said that he or she was going to do. So to come back to Melissa's question, I hadn't even thought about that till Melissa asked it. Uh, in terms of the formative and summative, the formative and summative expectations, and I may have used this analogy with all of you before. I'm a little guy, but I used to play pretty good football. And I was a pretty good quarterback, except I couldn't see over the lineman. But if I had my ends going up and across, I wouldn't see them half the time. So I would kind of guess where they were. If I did see them, if I thought that they were 3 yards shorter than where I wanted to be, I had to formatively change my target. Or if they were moving off in a different direction, I had to before I actually threw the ball, I had to adjust because of what my individual assessment of the likelihood of completing the pass would be. When space exploration is coming back into form, and people are landing, different countries are landing, not manned voyages, but they're landing on the moon. When they shoot a rocket to the moon, they may look up in the sky tonight and see a moon off in the east at 8 o'clock at night. And as it moves across the sky, it winds up someplace else. But we all know that the moon is moving, and so is the Earth. And so what we need is computers that are going to aim that rocket where the moon's going to be, so they'll intercept each other. And so it has to be maybe over here by the time the rocket will arrive in the vicinity of the moon. So the computers will tell the engineers to adjust the trajectory of the rocket according to the speed and conditions of where the moon is going and where the rocket's going. You do that all the time. All of you who are teachers, you all do this. In fact, let me go back to Melissa about the idea of the global. What I did also was because then it was the 9th and 10th grade test. And because in our district at the time, 9th grade was in a different building, was in the junior high, and 10th grade was where high school began. Kids had a different teacher for 9th than they had for 10th. And some of the teachers in the 9th grade were slugs, and I knew that, and I took care of that a different way. And so the first thing teachers would ask when these kids entered 10th grade, brand new 10th graders in the high school, was who was your 9th grade teacher? And they would tell them, and they would sometimes write kids right off because of who the teacher was. I shouldn't be laughing about it. I fixed that. But what I wound up doing was about halfway through the 10th grade year was requiring that they make up a phony regents, not a phony regents exam, a phony midterm. Didn't count, but where the kids would take it and what they would be able, the teachers resisted with great energy until I saw the idea behind it. Was I asked them to use the midterm as a diagnostic, as a formative assessment. So if they recognize that the kids who studied China in the 9th grade didn't know from China, and they nonetheless were responsible for passing the 10th grade, 9th, 10th grade Regents exam, they had to drop back and plug up some holes where they thought content or skills holes needed to be plugged up. That's formative assessment. And you do that all the time. You teach something to someone. I'm doing it with you folks now because I realize that you're having trouble formulating the goals. And so I'm adjusting what I'm doing to take care of that in order for you to move forward properly. And in the same sense, that's what formative assessments are. It could take any kind of, Melissa asked, are we going to, this a classroom issue or is this a whole grade issue in her case? In my mind, if you put a gun between my eye, Melissa, I would say it's a whole grade rather than an individual classroom thing. But
I agree.
But it doesn't, because we're talking about the system, the subsystem that is 10th grade, social studies teachers.
I just came to my mind that, the school that I worked in previously, I was actually hired to come in to help support global students. And so I shared a class, I shared students with the other global teacher, which is one global teacher. And in the fall, I reviewed all of ninth grade. And then in the spring, I taught everything again after what the other teacher taught. And our passing percentage was like 85%.
Good for you. Because
Like between,
there's intervention strategies, and then again, there's intervention strategies.
so I would say that would be a strategy, right?
Yes,
Like
yes.
having a support teacher to teach, taking a group of kids, right? And using those group of kids as data to see how having extra, I would say services, extra support, how they perform.
Very good. Now channel that back to the ESL babies, and you have to even squeeze that harder.
Yeah,
Uh,
okay.
and I would say, and I think this is pretty obvious in terms of your need. Um, Gen Ed teaches. I'm not saying, you said special ed. You didn't say, no, you said Gen Ed, ESL kids.
Yeah,
Gen
no,
Ed
yeah.
teachers have a bad habit.
No, we call them E&L students
I know
now.
that's my bad on that. I
I
always,
know, yeah.
um, Gen Ed teachers of all grades and all subjects. I'm generalizing. I apologize if this offends anyone. It's not obviously not meant to offend anybody. Uh, will sometimes say, come back to an administrator and say, you put the three kids who came in from Peru yesterday, they don't speak a word of English. I need help. I don't know what to do with them. And it's a legitimate, help need, no question about it. Uh, and one of them or the same thing with special ed children, same exact idea. And then what will happen is uh, someone will say, where's the ENL teacher? Where is she? He. Where is that person? That's his job, not mine. Because what happens is, and this is a harsh word I'm going to use, teachers begin to think in silos rather than across disciplines. And they think that when something's wrong, you farm a child out, whether they're 10th graders or third graders, you farm them out to the so-called specialists instead of perhaps trying to learn some of the strategies that any teacher could use to individualize a need for every child. And it's a very difficult mindset to break, extremely difficult. And what leaders do is by not insisting that everybody learns how to individualize when they can. Individualized instruction is the answer to so many issues, except we don't know how to do it. And so if a child's blind, we can figure out a way for the child to learn without sight in a different way. If a child can't hear, we'll bring in a signer. If a child can't understand English, there are lots of ways to help a child get across the finish line. And there's plenty of strategies that have to be woven into instructional approaches that we don't do. What teachers often do, I'm being bad tonight, is they do what I'm doing with you folks. They do talking heads, especially in high school. But if you're a high school teacher, I apologize. Okay, these are great questions. And I'm looking at my watch, and it's already 7:30, so I'm not going to get 99% of what I wanted to get done. And I'm fine with that. Let's add some more questions. Anybody else have any kind of questions for the greater good?
Quick question. Where did you say we can find that template? We can
It's
refer back to
it's
it.
in several of the modules. I don't remember where, but look them up. If you don't find it, let me know, and I'll show you one now. I mean, it's not that hard to do.
That'd be awesome. Oh, I see it.
All right, let's do it for everybody.
To the future Wilson.
Okay, ready? You see, Marilyn? Got to go. The goal goes in that box. Nothing else goes in that column, just that goal. Nothing else, only the goal goes in that column. Then you have strategies to meet the goals and needs. Now, what I did was I insisted that you do some information gathering strategy. So your first strategy is going to be 2 or 3 of the strategies I listed already. I don't care which ones you pick, as long as you tell me what you're going to do. If you say I'm going to do a 5Y and I'm going to do a SWOT, that's 2. And a data analysis, that's 3. There's your 3 strategies. You don't have to do them, he shouted. You just have to identify them. Except I am suggesting that you do one of those strategies to help yourself figure out what the goal is. Some of you, like Janine, don't have to, it's going straight to the goal and handle it well. But a lot of folks I'm talking to need to get this information thing expressed a little bit more to get the root cause cleaner in order to uh, distill, boil off what the goal really is. If you say to me, I want to raise scores, I'm gonna give it back to you. I don't know what that means. And I don't know why you want to raise scores. Janine wanted to work with, I forget what she was working on specifically. It was standardized assessments versus individualized assessments pieces. Janine wants to meet the needs of students with real needs. Melissa talked about narrowing the achievement gap between ENL and general education babies. She's trying to assure that all kids meet their capacity to be successful. That's the goal. Isn't that what you really want? We're all going to be administrators. That's what you want. So we have a strategy, and then you're going to give your ideas here. So whatever ideas you have, I'm not going to argue about your ideas. If I think that as long as I understand that the idea, the strategies are tied to the goal, we're good. And moving across was a formative and summative strategies. Now, in Melissa's case, it's pretty easy. At least the summative is pretty easy. What's the summative strategy? Or rather, what's the summative criteria?
The end goal, what the results are at the end.
Yes. What would it be in your case?
Mine, for
Yeah.
my specific
Melissa.
Oh, well, the end goal would be an increase in.
There you go. Now I will give
But-
you a little word of warning, Melissa. You scare the shoes off teachers when you start putting percentages in. I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm just telling you that's what happens. That's a problem in the future.
I also look at summative assessments, which would be the end goal, but they could be unit exams too throughout the year. They could be a mock regents before you get to that.
Melissa, watch again. See, it's rolling down my cheek again. All right, we're keeping score now. All right, so you have 3 tiers. You have 3 tiers. Janine has 2. All right. So you're going to give me formative and summative strategies. In your case, you've got it understood. You understood that properly. Now the other ones sometimes look a little Mickey Mouse, but they're not. I may not be going in the right order, but who's going to do this? In this case, it's you can't put down a person's name. You don't know. You just make up a name or make up an office. Like says the superintendent for instruction, department chair, E&L coach, whoever they are, and assign who's going to be doing them. The next one is I have trouble with, and I've done a million of these with corporations and whatever, and I still have trouble with this. And that would be a timetable. Now, as somebody, I think Melissa said, she's coming up with a 3-year plan, which is what I said you had to do. You had to do a minimum of a 3-year plan. That's strategic. Trump today was talking about some people whom he's already begun to appoint to take over in his administration. Now, in a sense, what he's doing is he's coming up with a timetable for his 4 years. And what he's doing is putting certain people in place in certain roles right away to get off the ground. So what you should do is, I would recommend that the information piece is at least 6 months. I'm going to recommend that, or even a year, depending on the complexity of the issue. And then space it out. Now, sometimes what I do is I work backwards. Somehow that works better for me. But in the end, this goal has to be met in 3 years. The overall goal is 3 years. So if Melissa says I'm going to I want to narrow the gap from 50% gap to 20% gap in 3 years, that's the goal after 3 years. But she might want to say in 26, 27, we're going to narrow the gap by 10 points. Or something that sounds like that. But you have to be careful with that because people break out in a rash if you actually try to do that way.
So could you set different measurable goals? Let's say in 1 year, if let's say you close the gap by 3%, then let's say the next year, can I open it and close the gap by 5%?
This side of my face now is getting wet. But your children are right. You're making the professor cry. This is like six. This is scary. What's going on? All right, you're drinking the Kool-Aid, Melissa.
Okay.
I'll send you a bill.
Okay.
The answer is yes, of course. And what you're doing is you're bouncing off the formative, aren't you? Because the formative says, well, we didn't meet the goal first year, but now so I have to adjust it for the next. Now, this is a side note. What's notorious uh, about school systems, whether you're teaching in the city or you're teaching in the suburbs, is that people don't pay attention to timetables really very much, and they don't pay attention to even the percentages things, and they tend to like make believe they don't exist because no one really kind of asks about it. That's up to the superintendent. If you're the superintendent, you may be asking it, but you'd be surprised how those things kind of get buried, especially if you haven't hit the marks. Okay, so the person responsible, the timetable, and the resources that you need. Yeah, typically that's money, but it's always more than money. Or more importantly, maybe another way to put it would be to say, this is how I spend my money. I'm going to buy, and if this were a real plan, you would say how much you were spending. We're not going to do that. It's asking too much of you. So if you say, I need two more E&L coaches, now that's a $250,000 price tag right there. Between insurances, benefits, and salary, 200 to 250. There's an expenditure if you're going to hire 2 teachers or 10 teachers, whatever it is you think it will cost. Or if you're going to bring in subs to do PD training, if you're going to do coaching training and you're going to pull the teachers out of the classroom, you got to put subs into the building to cover the classes. And I don't know what they pay subs anymore. It's peanuts from what I understand. So let's say it's $100 a substitute, and you're bringing in 5 substitutes. That's $500 a day to do PD training. And I would also tell you, and everyone was going to use the PD strategy, and I think most of you probably should. You need to know that PD really, by research, should take place during the day, during their workday, not before school or after. Doesn't work as nearly as well, even though it's a costly item. Something else I just want to throw in, and I'm not saying you have to do this, but if you're putting in a timetable in the second year or even the back half of the first year, you should probably put in a pilot, like a mini project, just to see that will help with the formative strategies evaluation that you need to do. Rather than make a mistake and hurt 100 kids, you can make the mistake smaller and then adjust them more quickly because you haven't tried to make everyone do everything at the same time. That's how cars get manufactured. when someone engineers a car and then develops it in the automobile plants, they drive that car they drive prototypes of that car for 2 or 3, 4, 5 years, sometimes 10 years in Japan, to make sure that they can see anything that could possibly go wrong with the engineering of the car. Then they release it to the public. And that's smart. It's costly, but it's smart. In the end, it saves money. And this last one, oh my heavens. This last one, I have different names for it, but I'm going to call it right now. I'm going to call it the probable futures. Hey, things are going to go wrong. Things are going to go much better than you thought. Sometimes you're going to get resistance from places that you didn't expect it. That's where this comes in. And the smart planner will do will try to recognize those things and head them off before they destroy the entire plan. Did a dissertation defense yesterday with a student. I had actually I had her in her first PD class. She reminded me about that yesterday, and then I don't know how many years later she did this 325-page dissertation. That was it was a work of art. At any rate, what was I going to say about that? And she was talking about changing the mentoring programs for teachers. And she was real clear, because maybe because I taught it to her back in the day. She said, "Oh, we're going to pilot this first. We're not going to go whole hog. We're going to do a small project to see how it works, and then we'll take it from there." Now, this problem, there's two ways to approach the problem, more than two, but there's two ways that occur to me off the top of my bald head that I want to point out. And that would be, um, in a certain case, somebody used the word spitball before. You can spitball what you think are the probable futures. You can do that. Um, the spitballing will be a better spitball if you really had done the information gathering strategies. Then you know more specifically about things. I just heard this afternoon, and I'm doing this without any opinion. I heard this from somebody, some expert, so-called, this afternoon, that Kamala Harris didn't target Latino men nearly as much as Trump did, and the vote is expressed that way. And you can see that who won, and because she didn't anticipate the probable future. You know, when the football team, I think one of you is a football coach, if I remember right. If a football team says, "Well, I got a really great running back, and we're going to run the ball 80% of the time," and if for some reason the defense that you're playing against are all 400-pound walls, and these guys are running into the wall and not succeeding, formatively you say, "Well, this isn't working. I got to adjust and start throwing the ball. I have to change my tactic," along the lines of what Melissa said. And so the more you recognize what the probable yes but questions are and the yes but reactions, the better you are. And that will come from from your information gathering. Now I'm looking at the clock and I'm saying to myself, holy heavens, what time is it? It's 10 to 8. Oh, we go to 8:45. Okay, we got time.
Sorry, maybe you saw my kid. Some of them trying to get them to bed early.
That's okay. They're not hanging on my every word. Isn't that putting them to sleep? Okay. I had it in my head that the class ended at 8. It ends at 8:45. We got time. That's good. All right. So now here we are back up here on this. Is there any questions about about this template? Marilyn, does this help?
Yes, this helps tremendously. Last question, I promise.
That's okay.
You had said in the beginning of the class that everyone's doing okay with the discussion questions. Not that I want any more work, because now my focus is on the strategic plan, but you had stopped posting questions. What did you put it somewhere else for us to answer?
No, they're all posted. I caught up and posted them. They're there. Because what I
Okay.
do sometimes I forget to make them visible. There's a little
That's why,
button.
because I only see up to 6.
Mhm.
Is it just me?
I
Am I
put
just
one up. I put one up starting tomorrow,
Yeah, the only last one I had was also the 6th.
Yeah, I put one starts tomorrow. I forget what the question is, but I started one for tomorrow.
Because I think we should be on week 9, but the last one I saw was week 6.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to those numbers.
Okay,
Hope you don't mind that.
that's fine. I just want to make sure I didn't miss something because
No, no,
sometimes other people call in.
everyone's been really good. All right, so template questions. And there's a leadership theory. It's called self-efficacy.
It's not a question, it's just that it's helpful. If you go to modules and you go where you post, it says Malloy 1028, you can download that template.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. They're all there. Everything you need is all in those modules. So please look at please, you're responsible for going into the module every week to see what documents and agenda items I put up and so forth. That's an expectation. I just assume that everyone's doing that. And maybe not necessarily in a time segment sequence, but in the end, you should be going through all of the modules. There's plenty of material there. Thanks, Melissa. So, I forgot what I wanted to say. So the template is, to come back to Tim's question, uh, that's what the template looks like, Tim, although it is in several modules as well. And we've talked about how it should look. Now, to come back to Tim's question again, remember this is a computer, so I can make the boxes bigger if I want. And that's helpful, but sometimes it's overwhelms the box. Oh, by the way, you can have more than one strategy in a box. I'm sorry, more than one strategy in a box if you think they're connected with each other. And don't think twice about that. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have. And you're going to have more than one probable future. If you only have one probable future for every one of the strategies, that doesn't ring right for me. There's all sorts of things, and you can repeat them. I mean, I'm going to be bad again. I was a union executive board officer for some time. You could probably say that it may often be true that the union will object to some of the ideas that you as a leader, as an administrator, are pulling together with your staff, your think tank. And that's very likely. So you can put that in more than one box. That's that's perfectly okay. And the message that was sent to you is that you have to pay more attention to that in order to assure the fact that the plan will work, which is what you want in the end. All right, so there's the template, but there was, as Melissa said, it's in one of the other modules already. It's at least in one other one. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop this agenda page. I'm going to go to something else. Okay, now I'm not peddling my book. I got plenty of people buying the book. Okay. If you bought the book, I get $3. It's not like I can get a villa in Tuscany. Okay. So I'm not peddling the book. I promise you. Uh, this is from my book. So I can't post it to Canvas because this is in copyright. But I can tell you that if that I can pull it off. If somebody buys the book, then they have the rights. And I'm not telling you to buy the book. I'm glad this is being recorded. I'm not telling you to buy the book. Then you would have legal access to get at what I'm showing you here. Now, I'm just going to walk you through this for a minute because that probable future is absolutely about futuring. And the more skilled you become at futuring, the better your plan is going to be. Simple as that. Inherent in that are several skills. And I'm going to tell you what the skills are after you do this. So what you're going to do now is just take out a piece of paper or write on your hand. I want you to score yourself as I read these to you. Because and then I'm going to ask you two questions about it in a moment, in a couple of minutes, actually. This is what I call your futuring quotient. Okay, where your strengths and weaknesses are. Including me, every one of us has them. So on a scale of, and for some reason the numbers are mixed up. Oh no, I'm up in the wrong place. For some reason, doesn't matter. I'm going to read to you, and you're going to go from 1 to not at all over to 5, which is very strongly. So I'm going to read you the things so I can move quickly. Don't give it a lot of thought. Don't yes but me on the question for clarification unless you're really hung up. But I want you to score yourself. Okay, so here we go. So without giving too much consideration, please circle the responses that most nearly aligns with your opinion. Here we go. Number 1, an organization's members must know the difference between what they think its future will be and what they want it to be. Scale of 1 to 5. Number 2, I like to engage my colleagues in thinking about what drives our organization's success. 1 to 5. 3, I have great interest in what trends and data suggest for my organization's future. I have great interest in what my trends and data suggest. So Melissa's going to go with a high number there. So will Janine. Number 4, stakeholders can be taught how to think creatively. I think I've used this statement with all of you early on. Number 5, none of us is as smart as all of us. Number 6, mental models in an organization can easily be changed. All right, number 7, faulty subsystems in an organization, and by organization I mean schooling, districts or schools. Faulty subsystems in an organization do not necessarily affect the effectiveness of the whole organization. Eight, organizational culture eats goal strategies for breakfast. Organizational culture eats goal strategies for breakfast. 9, stakeholders can be creative and still retain the old ways that they solve problems. 10, if stakeholders cannot transform their organization's emerging future, they should adapt to what they foresee and accept its consequences. That's an interesting statement. If stakeholders cannot transform their organization's emerging future, they should adapt to what they foresee and accept its consequences. 11, power struggles typically obstruct collaboration because the expectations of the group are not clarified at the outset of its charge. 12, creative ideas are the result of the coalesced purpose of the group. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Janine, I'm alerted to something too. Creative ideas are the result of the coalesced purpose. Oh, I'm sorry, of the group. I didn't have time to go on mute. 13, a learning organization must continue to reinvent itself to survive. I will say, clarify that in one sense. By learning organization, I don't necessarily mean schools. In this case, I do, but it doesn't mean necessarily, I mean, the government is a learning organization. McDonald's is a learning organization. It's a matter of how well they nurture themselves to continue if they have to reinvent themselves. 14, cultural capacity is a function of systems thinking, collaborative leadership, and creativity, and is factored by its ability to identify its emerging futures. That's a little longer than the rest of them. Cultural capacity is a function of systems thinking, collaborative leadership, and creativity, and is factored, that means affected by, the ability to identify its emerging future. Last one, the most important factor in an effective group is trust. Okay, does anyone need any of the items reread to you? I'm fine with that. Okay. Now let's go to the next piece. I'm going to leave this up. I'm not going to talk so much. What you're going to do now is total the items up separately and then together. So for example, the first one is you're going to total item 2, 8, and 14, and just put the total just put the total down. You don't have to do the average. Okay. And the next one is 1, 3, 10, and the third one is 4, 9, 12. The fourth one is 6, 7, and 13. And the last one is 5, 11, and 15. I'm going to leave that up. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes and with that a break. So add them up and then take a break. And I'll see you in 8 minutes. I'll see you at 11:08. Is that right? 11:11. Oh my God, I feel like I'm 90 years old today. At 8:11, I'm going to get a drink of water and I'll be back then too. I'll take another minute and then we'll come back. Okie doke. All right, you can see where this is taking you. What's going to happen in a minute is I'm going to put you in let's see how many of you are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of you. So I'll put you in groups of threes so that you can exchange where you came in on this. Typically, what will happen is, first of all, I think you can see that items 2, 8, and 14 have to do with a strength and culture. We talked about more than once. Um, this is what I'm caring the most about in terms of the probable future identification, but they all figure into this. Items 1, 3, and 10 identify somebody. If that would be your highest score, then you're more nearly a futurist. Usually that's the lowest number of people in a class when I do this. 4, 9, and 12 would be someone who thinks creatively. I'm not sure I hit that hard enough yet, but uh, certainly if you can't think creatively, like for example, when you put together your design strategy, your strategies to meet your goal, you're going to come up with strategies other people have used and have failed at. So we're looking for new strategies to make these things work. Uh, Items 6, 7, and 13 speak to systems thinking and all of what goes with that. And I've spoken about that several times in different ways. And then 5, 11, and 15 speaks to collaboration. Typically, that's the one where I get the most people with the highest score. But I'm not going to ask you yet to tell me what you do. But I'm really going to give you two things to do when I put you in the breakout rooms for about 10 minutes. And one would be um, just I'd tell the other 2 or 3 people that are in your group what you are. And I'd be interested to know too if I can get into your group on time. And the other thing I'm wondering about, especially those of you who may have scored highest in futuring, I'm lucky if I get 1 or 2 people typically in a class when I do this tactic. Uh, how well do you think you can typify the buildings that you're working in and the districts that you're working in, whether you see evidence of people who care about culture, about futuring, creativity, systems thinking, and collaboration? How often do you see those things in existence in your daily travels as an educator? So I'm going to stop to share. Any questions about that? 2 things. Exchange what you got your highest score or scores in. The second thing is, to what extent do you think the rest of your staff, your stakeholder colleagues, where they may sit, whether they're in the same place you are or whether they're in different places? So I'm going to stop and wait a second. Is that clear for everybody? Okay, I'm going to stop to share. And there are all your handsome faces. Now I'm going to put you in breakout rooms, which is always hard for Richard. Breakout rooms. Okay, we're going to do breakout rooms I'm going to do 3 breakout rooms, and I'm going to assign them automatically. And there they are. Janine, there's room 1. The first group is Janine, Leilani, Marilyn, and Yulia. Room 2 is Andrew, Lindsay, and Melissa. And room 3 is Jen, Lauren, and Tim. Okay. Questions, comments? criticisms, suggestions. I don't feel like being criticized. And the other part of it is, I like that Janine laughs at my jokes. Like she smiles at least. Some of you look so glum. You you know who you are. Okay, go to your rooms.
Planning.
Yeah. What were you saying? You just posted something about what was the last question, Professor?
How would you adjust your planning if you had if based on what you think you know?
Oh, okay.
So like our strategic planning,
Hmm.
like our strategic planning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So based on like, I guess our strengths. So both of us had futurism,
Futurism. What defines futurism?
looking towards the future.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
using the forecasting, learning how to work through your three Ps. Possible,
okay.
probable, preferable.
So how would I change my strategic plan?
Wait, so Lindsay, Lauren, did you come up? You a futurist?
Yeah, which
Yeah.
I was surprised.
Oh, Tim, I don't think
I
you
smile every
were
time I
yet.
meet somebody who's a futurist. I mean, I feel like either I converted somebody or we were naturally in the same pea pod down the line. And
I
Jen, how about
guess.
you? Jen?
She was too.
Oh,
We
yeah,
all
yeah,
were.
we
We all
both,
had
yeah,
You
similar
all were?
scores.
we all
Yeah.
futurists
Holy
and
cow.
collaborative planning.
So
Holy
I'm
cow.
not a collaborative planner. I'm a designer and a futurist.
Oh,
Yeah.
you,
Let's go
okay,
hand
you
in
were.
hand.
It was-
Yeah.
yeah. Mine was future and culture were my higher ones.
Tim, are you, I might be wrong. Did you come out of business to become a teacher?
No, I
Uh,
did.
kind of a long time ago.
Typically, the people who can change careers are more futurist. Lindsay,
Oh,
Lauren, you said
that
you
makes
were too?
sense. I'm a career changer. Yeah.
Typically, they seem to have experiences. They may help them, give them a different lens than many teachers may have. All right, so you carry on. I'm going to go see what these other people are saying. So I'm going to leave the room, and hopefully, I don't kill everybody else's leave.
And kick us all out.
I've done it before. Let me tell you, I'm out.
Hi, Dr. Bernardo. So, um, a lot of us scored high on collaborative leadership.
Okay.
I don't know, I was an anomaly. I scored second on 3 of them. Like I had culture, futurists, and design. They all scored the same.
Okay, that happens.
Yeah,
Wait, say that again. Culture, futurist, and collaboration,
design thinking.
design, creativity.
Yeah, collaborative was my highest, and my lowest was systems.
So if I were to be as administrator, I'm talking for myself now. If I were um, and if you read my book, you know where I'm taking you on this. Uh, if I were creating a team, I would make you my superintendent because superintendents need that kind of spectrum of skills to be effective because they have to be mindful of the multiple skill sets that are necessary.
Right.
You're not an anomaly unless you think superintendents are anomalies. Okay. Okay. And Andrew, you came out of business, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
worked as a CPA for a number of years.
so I have a theory about what you came highest in, but I won't tell you until after you tell me.
Highest 12 was culture and collaborative leadership. The lowest was system disciplines, 8.
Wow.
Oh,
That's
you thought system
unsurprised.
disciplines would be the highest?
That or futurist.
No. No, futurist is 11.
All right, so you're up there with that. Okay. And Lindsay?
Collaborative leadership was my highest one,
So if I were
followed
forming a
by,
team, I would make Melissa the superintendent. I would make Andrew this. You were lowest in systems thinking, huh? What was
Yep.
your high score again, please?
8,
What was it? What was the topic?
8 in systems, 12 the highest, culture, collaborative leadership.
Okay, so I might make you the superintendent, or maybe the principal, because well, probably I might make you yeah. I think I would probably make you a people personnel director. And Lindsay, I forgot already. What were you? Collaborative also.
Personnel
collaborative
director.
and design thinking.
Oh, design thinking. I will definitely make you a PPS person then, because you have to come up with a lot of creative strategies to deal with the kinds of things that Melissa pointed out when the class started today. And the person who has to run a people personnel programs department has to have be very nimble on her feet to creatively approach the kinds of things that need to be approached, and to come up with strategies that aren't the humdrum ones that people typically fall to that didn't work, but we continue to use them because we haven't got enough brains to come up with different ones. So you consider yourself a creative person? Yes or no?
Yes,
See that?
I'm in. Sign me up.
See that being the simulation I keep telling you guys about. You guys, I wish I could just put a rope around all of you and bring you in to do this with me. It would be so much fun. All right, I'm leaving. You guys figure out the rest of those questions, and we'll come back in a minute.
Okay.
Bye.
Just like Lilani, I think in the discussion board that we've had in the last couple of weeks, one of them was one why planning fails, right? So maybe in your school, like you were saying, yes, it was planned, but then was it followed through? Was it monitored? Was data collected to make changes as needed? So I actually like those discussion questions because it made me think about my strategic plan and what I need to put into that, just to not only think about what I'm planning, but how it can be, because there are so many possible variables, what can go wrong or what can, might be overlooked or not be taken into account. So, you know, sometimes just the questions you get asked make you think. So
I
Is
hope,
that the issue at your building,
I
Leilani?
hope, I hope that's the case. Well said. Yuli, what was your highest score?
I'm in between equal number for culture and design. Is it design? Yeah, I think
You're
design.
talking about creative thinking, which we haven't really talked about as much as I intend to talk about yet. But I've just said this to the other two rooms as well. Uh, if we come up with humdrum, one-dimensional strategies, we get humdrum, one-dimensional solutions, which don't ordinarily solve root cause issues. And so the person who knows how to, who can help other people, I hate the word I'm going to use. This word it's almost like a four-letter word to me, but here it comes because everybody understands it. If everybody really learns how to truly be creative together, that is to say, brainstorm. I hate that word. Uh, that speaks well for them to energize the whole group to think differently from how they're used to thinking. If you listen to Melissa talk about the issues about the performance between the E and L kids and the general education kids, the whole humdrum solutions haven't worked. And so we have to think about new ways to do the things we need to do. And so I would probably make you my people personnel director, and if we were doing the simulation, or if I was the superintendent, I would make you that because I would count on you to charge up Janine and Marilyn and Lalani to think differently than they may perhaps think. I'm just talking off the top of my bald head, but that's what I'm hearing here. Janine, tell us what your highest score was, please.
The collaborative leadership.
Typically, that's the one that most people get their highest score, and which is nice to sit here. So what I would say that if I were forming a team, I would make you either a politician. Somebody needs the political muscles to get people to
Oh
talk to
no,
each other.
I
Or I
don't
would
want
make
to be
you,
a politician.
or I'd make you a principal, and a principal has to be a politician.
Ugh.
People deny that, but that's the way it is. Anyone who says I don't play politics is deluding themselves or lying. All right. So uh, just because you're miscongeniality doesn't mean that's a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Right.
Okay. Marilyn,
Yes, sir. I had the highest in culture.
superintendent or the board president, if I was running the simulation that's described in the book, I'd make you a superintendent because if you don't have your fingers in the culture pie and know how people respond to given ideas and movements and initiatives, uh, you have to again politically sell them to a board as well. But at the same time, uh, you're going to help the rest of the people in your group recognize what their basic beliefs are or might or maybe have to change from. So I hear you on that, and I'm not surprised that you said that as such. Leilani, smile.
I
God bless you. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
I also scored high on collaborative leadership.
So I'd either make you a president, not a president. I'd make you a politician or a principal because all principals have to work. I would hope would have to work on collaborative skills. Now, here's a question for you, Leilani, and for Janine. In your experiences with your present principals, are they good at getting people to collaborate?
Yeah, I was just talking about that. We use DataWise in my school,
Mhm.
and every week we meet up together and we do inquiry. So that's something that's common in my school. Everybody
Common
collabs.
in what sense? Did they come to conclusions and come up with solutions based on a common understanding?
Yes, and based on like data, student work products.
Well, you know what that also speaks to? It speaks to Maryland. That speaks to a culture that that values that. Not every building I've been in, they may give lip service to data and to data-wise kinds of things, but they don't necessarily put it into motion when they have to come up with common solutions to the issues they're trying to solve. Okay, how about your building, Janine?
I would say my principal is certainly a politician. We have like the superintendent and the chancellor coming to our school quite frequently because we're one of the model schools for our district. In terms of like the collaborative work, I feel like a lot of the assistant principals, we take that on. Like we are the ones who are leading inquiry teams and working with the instructional coaches and working with the teachers.
Are you an
So
AP?
yes.
I don't think I knew that. Okay.
Mhm. So we help to foster that sort of like relationship. A lot of us were instructional coaches before we became assistant principals, and I taught at the school that I'm an AP at. So I've like went through all the positions. So that sort of collaboration is part of our school culture.
That was my career ladder too, exactly. The exact same ladder. I did started as a coach and worked my way all the way up to whatever up
How many
means.
APs do you have in your building, Janine?
So we have
I'm gonna
10
leave you. You guys keep talking for a few more minutes.
10?
we have 10 sites across every
Oh, I thought you said
district
you had
in the
10.
Bronx.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice job. I'm impressed. I had many more futurists than I usually have in these conversations. Usually I get far fewer, which is kind of scary. Uh, Again, if we were doing the simulation like you're talking about, I would put you in two different teams. And one team would be the world out there, that would be the Board of Education and the community. It has to be factored into most change issues. Can't overlook those people. They're the ones who make the problems if you don't include them in the creativity of this. And then the internal team would be the educational leadership team, the superintendent, the principals, union presidents, uh, and so forth. And so I kind of told everybody where I thought they belonged. Now, here's my question, and it's not an easy question to answer, I don't think. I'm going to try to remember who was in which group, and that's kind of hard for me. And so I may just pick on people. Uh, what themes or lessons do you think you could take from seeing the different roles that people might play in a strategic planning uh, initiative? So I'm going to only because Yulia is up on the top of my screen, Yulia, if you don't mind. Uh,
Sure,
who-
I was actually gonna raise my hand. Something that we were discussing in our group is that it's great when a leader has one of these characteristics, but sometimes it can be dangerous or tricky when it's just one-sided because, and we were discussing examples of our administrators that we work with. Like I brought up a principal who was all about, data and systems, and, we were doing these amazing PDs, but she was not very good about uniting people and creating a culture of, for example, data-driven instruction or a culture of collaboration. So like all of that effort, it was wasted. As soon as she was gone, all of that, stopped, and then the school went back to the old ways um, because of not creating that culture and not being able to sustain those goals and those ideas and principles. That's why sometimes it's important to have people on your team who might have the different characteristics and qualities. Like somebody might be, have the culture approach, somebody has the design approach,
He
so
has
that you
another
guys can.
teardrop. He has another teardrop coming on. I see it.
So that
There's a tear. It's rolling right down here. See, it's right about over here. All right, here it comes. Well said. And
so
and,
that
and I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off, but like I think I mentioned the book before. There's a book called The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni, Lencioni. It's like 15 or $16. It's well worth having in your library. It's exactly what Yulia was saying. Uh, that a team that is dominated by one skill set suffers because they don't know how to work the group, to work the
I wrote that book.
There's a tick going on this side then, Yulia. All right. Okay, Jen, were you in the same group as Yulia?
No, I was with Tim and Lauren.
Okay, so anything that came out of that the other rest of us want to hear, would like to hear?
Yeah, we noticed that some of our scores flip-flopped. We noticed that it flip-flopped. So like Lauren said, she noticed that she's now more of a futurist than before.
I know Lauren was kind of interested in the fact that she was, and that's I'm pleased that she drank the Kool-Aid, or she had drunk the Kool-Aid before she got to this course as such. Futuring is followed closely by design thinking. And futurist is the missing skill. Okay, but the other ones cannot be denied, must be part of the formula. However, the futuring piece is the part that people aren't very good at. They think they're good at it, but they're not. And I'm going to show you more about that in a moment. So I did Yulia's group, I did Jen's group, and I don't know who else. It's only I'm going to Melissa. Are you in the same group as Jen?
The one that we were just in?
Yeah.
No, I was with Andrew and Lindsay.
Okay. So what came out of that one? Any thought emerged at the end, very end?
A lot of us were on the collaborative end.
Okay, that's
Lower on
like,
I think all of our lowest was the systematic.
Yeah, that's kind of surprising to me, but I'll have to come back to that one somewhere down the line, which tells me that there's more work for Mother here. I'm Mother, which means I'm going to have to do some videos this weekend. One about systems and another one about what I want to show you now. So I'm going to just show you something real fast. I keep thinking, getting my times mixed up. We're not going at 9 o'clock. We're going to 8:45. So I know everybody wants to put their babies to bed and all the rest of it. So let me just go real fast. I'm going to do and remind you that I want to talk about the probable future, that right-hand column. And as I said before, we got into this little exercise that um, you can do probable futures off the top of your head and probably be more correct than not. But there's ways that truly, like Lindsay and I are the futurists, there's really ways to sculpt down and squeeze into some good thinking about what the hidden probable futures, they'll come and bite you in the ankle. So I'm going to I'm going to flip way up. Unfortunately, I can't give you this. Maybe I can. I'll try to figure out a way to do it, but I'm going to show you two. I'm going to do a video about these. All right. You're going to see at least two videos, or maybe one video doing two things. This is the future wheel I showed you. I'm not sure one idea, but I know I showed it where you put a future in the middle. So if Janine, it's easy to remember Melissa's than Janine's, no offense, Janine. If Janine wants to narrow the gap in the performance between global and in between ENL students and gen ed kids, that's the future she's looking at. And then what are the ripple effects? I'm going to model this in a video. What are the ripple effects? I don't know if I can write in these. I can.
I could give you one really quick.
Go.
I thought about it. It would be limited instruction because you have so much time trying to teach content and language acquisition that neither one would be acquired or one wouldn't be stronger as the other.
Oh, I have such an answer for that. I wish we had more time. But you're right. I agree. I think you're right. Now, so what's an outcome of the fact that there's limited instructional time?
Have a lower Regents score.
Lower scores. See how this works? So you've got to take it out. You just can't do that immediate in a circle. And really, if you had the time, you can go, you could write all over your desk on these things. That's how you do a futures wheel. And then what you do with that, and I'll show this in a video better than I'm doing now, you'll see that you begin to recognize that some of these futures are more probable than others. I suspect, and not knowing anything about where Melissa works, that this is a probable future, a strong one. And I don't buy it, to tell you the truth, Melissa, but that's another, you can call me up and I'll tell you why. Then there's these cross impact matrices. Now we're going to do this real fast. A probable future is what Melissa just pointed out, which was we're going to have limited time and therefore they won't be able to do what they want to do. That's a probable future. You can see this chart makes room for 4 or 5 probable futures. Now, what you need to do then is to think about the people, the places, the things, the ideas that could be affected, impacted by this. So clearly it's going to be teachers. Clearly it's going to be gen ed kids. Clearly it's going to be ENL kids. Clearly it's going to be leadership. Clearly it's going to be, give me one other, Melissa.
Well, I was trying to write it down, sorry.
All right, I'm sorry. I'll give you one. It could be you.
Resources? I don't.
All right, okay, that's great. Beautiful. More tears. I might have to stop blowing my nose now because you guys are making me very, very emotional here. Resources. Now, watch. I don't know if you can see my cursor here. If that's of my
You're not sharing your screen, Professor.
excuse me?
Sorry, are you supposed to be sharing your screen? Because you said watch.
Oh, thank you for telling me. And I just lost everything. Give me a second. And if you have to go because I'm running over time, just leave. No, you're not going to offend me in the slightest. But one more minute and I can show you this. All right, so we did the futures wheel. You didn't see, there's the futures wheel up there. I did it up like so. And now you can see I'm running down to cross impact matrix. And I'm not going to keep picking on Melissa. Anyone who could offer, if we have limited time, how is that going to affect leadership? Marilyn, you turned off.
Now I was taking a picture of this grid.
Okay. I'm going to do this again over the weekend. Not tomorrow, but I will do this over the weekend. So, well, how would limited time affect leadership?
They could be stressed and then not be able to take the time to explain why something is important, and then people are going through the motions.
Yeah, and then sometimes I know when I was a stress leader, which is more often than I want to admit to, when I became stressed, I became, you ready for this? Don't tell anybody. I was going to say nasty, but that I didn't become nasty. But then I become unilateral. I don't give people a chance to share their ideas. I just tell them what they're supposed to be thinking. If they're going to fight me, and I haven't got time for that. I sometimes went to uh, the old Richard. But now what just trying to show you here is you take your probable future. You can do this on your own. You can have some fun with this. But I'll model this better over the weekend, some brief videos. Uh, you list your probable futures down this side, and then you put things like teachers, community, whatever you think is going to be affected by that future, and then try to get more specific about how things may shake out here. And now you have more probable futures than you know what to do with. And Melissa, I'm doing a lot of Melissa in this class tonight. Believe it or not, if you did this with kids, they write the best Regents essays you ever saw. Money back, money. I'll give you your money back. Whatever you pay for this course, I'm telling you, they'll write the best essays ever when you use this technique. It's called the cross impact matrix, but it builds off the futures wheel. But I'm going to show you a third premise that's going to make all of your hair hurt. And since my hair doesn't exist anymore, it's nothing left to hurt it. And that's after 8:45. You guys have been great. If you have any questions, email me, call me, TomTom me, tin cans and string, text me, or I'll just stay online if you need to do that too. I can't give you this, I don't think. I'm going to try to give it to you, but I'm not sure that it's I can technologically do that as such. And with that, before I forget, have a beautiful holiday. Uh, Take care of yourselves, all of you, all right? And enjoy your families. Take care.
Thank you, Dr. Bernato. Have a
Good
good
night.
good evening. Good night.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Good night.
Good night.
This futures wheel is already on the module, Professor.
Yeah, it is. And so is the cross impact matrix. It just doesn't look as good as this.
I didn't see that. Maybe it is. That's what it is. Okay. Thank
Everything
you.
is there. Apparently, people aren't looking at the modules as often as they should be, but that's okay.
Thank you, Professor.
How's it going, Marilyn? Everything good?
It's going. What I'm
I'm going to
thinking now
shut the
is,
recording off, just so you know.
sure.